Their likeness to humans has made them uniquely valuable for certain types of research, but also demands greater justification for their use. This is a quote speaking of animal testing. Animal testing has been around as long as the 1800s and was sought out as being cruel not long after that because in 1876 England passed the British Cruelty to Animals Act, which tried to regulate animal experimentation. However, at the time, behaviorists in the world denied the fact that animals had any psyche or emotion. All other academic journals stated that animal behavior was only in terms of psychologic response to stimuli. This was overshadowed by the fact that animals started to show a genetic predisposition with an indistinctive behavior and knowledge. Moving on to the 1900s, most of the psychologists in the world believed that animals have their own ranges of emotions. In 1975, Australian philosopher Peter Singer wrote a book titled Animal Liberation. In this book was a vast amount of research from ethologists such as Jane Goodall and Dian Fossey. They suggested that primates were capable of emotions such as love, sorrow, jealousy, and humor. Not only that, but they were able to learn over 300 different signs of the American Sign Language. A great example of animal communication is in the 1990s, an African gray parrot named Alex was being studied at Arizona State University. When his keeper attempted to leave him alone, Alex yelled out, "Come here, I love you, I'm sorry." Now that I could get a little bit into the depth of the animal psyche and what their emotion spectrum is truly capable of, I can get into the statistics of animal testing and the vast amount of animals that are affected each year. Animals are used frequently in modern-day research and projects ranging from alcohol-induced aggression to pain medication. Around 115 animals are tested each year around the world in laboratory experiments. These include mice, rabbits, cats, dogs, non-human primates.
Sit down. I thought so.
There are many different types of research performed on these animals, including toxicity testing for industrial, consumer products, or just curiosity testing. Any type of medical research can have the potential to cause physical harm or mental distress to these animals. These procedures can also include being highly invasive, making the animals susceptible to debilitating diseases, given painful tumors, genetically modified to produce a physical deformity inflicted with wounds or broken limbs, and subjected to brain damage and organ failure. Of course, a lot of research can be done in just a day or two and can take weeks, months, or even years to finish through the experiment. While these experiments can take a lot of time, they can also cause a great deal of physical pain. The mental distress that these animals go through is far worse as they are stripped from their natural environments and forced to be subjects in tests and stuck in confinement. Animal research is mainly conducted to try and model what it would be like for a human to be in the same conditions and have the diseases or modifications that they are researching. However, it is impossible to know if most of the tests performed on animals would have a similar effect on a human. Although even primates are genetically similar to humans, the tests and their results can be drastically different because of the many small differences in genetics. The main issue with all of this is that there is not believed to be a great alternative to animal testing. This is something that we must fight to work on because animal studies have failed to predict human outcomes ranging from 50 to 99.7% of the time. There are a few different techniques that can be used that would not cause harm to anybody and that can also prove to be very successful methods of research. In vitro and cell culture techniques can produce disease models based on human cells and tissue. Computer modeling with three-dimensional virtual human organs and body systems, and patient studies including non-invasive brain research using sophisticated brain imaging techniques. The amount of experiments conducted on animals do not produce enough results based on the damage done mentally and physically. 300 million suffer from asthma, yet only 2 types of treatment has come out in the last 50 years. More than 1,000 potential drugs for strokes have been tested on animals, but only one of these has proved effective in patients. This trend does not change when going through a variety of other human illnesses. I'm sure you might be wondering, if there are other methods of getting this data, then why are animals still widely used for these experiments? This is strictly because there are no rules or regulations around the world that could at least slow down the use of animals for testing purposes. This causes scientists around the world to use animals for experiments that may not even be necessary. There is a ton of money to be made from all the products that are tested on animals, and even if a small portion of what went into funding to find different methods of testing, then the world for animals may be a much different place. I realize this is not going to be a short process, but it will take an effort from the entire world to start realizing that these animals have just as much a life to live as we do. There is some change being made, like in the European Union, where they have established that every experiment with animals, the scientists must try to replace, reduce, or refine the way that these experiments are being conducted on animals. There are many practices on animals that should just be left in the past. And even if some of this has touched your heart, then please join others in making change for the better. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for your time.